All right, we're going to create some SVG. I'm going to do it through Adobe Illustrator, so if you don't have that, there are similar programs. I think they're free or can do this online or something similar. Or you can also just do it in pure HTML and CSS and do it that way. That's really up to you. But I'm going to do it in Illustrator here because it just makes everything a little bit more easy for me. So I just made with the text tool here, just made an area. I'm just going to call this website animation. Ooh, that fits in here. That's perfectly lucky. So in my case, this is at the size of 75 pixels, 78 pt for the font size in this, and you can just change it to whatever feels right for you. The important thing here is we have fill and stroke, and we kind of want to reverse those because we want to use the stroke here to like draw the line when we in browser, so you know when the animated sort of like woo follows this around and then completes the letters and so on. So I'm going to swap them around so we have it like this, right? And the stroke, I'm just going to add a little bit more to it, to the thickness of the stroke, and I'm also just going to change the color of this one here. So let's do this, and let's just add the really light gray one just before the white. I think it's E6 or something like this when we actually print it out. But this is what I want for my my text that I want to animate on my web page, right? So a stroke in this case. So let's click Save As, and then we're going to just make sure we put it in the correct place. So I have in my work folder, my online folder, and I'm going to choose this one here. Sorry. Now for format, yours might be set to Illustrator right now. So switch this to SVG down here. So the format is specifically that one here. That's important. Otherwise you'll get an Illustrator file. We can use that. So click Save, and then you have SVG.1 or you have some of the others, doesn't really matter. But what we want to do is we want to switch these. So instead of being SVG, we want to convert to outline in this case. And you can just read down there what it does. And then embed link doesn't really matter. Now, there's two ways of doing it. You can click OK, and then you can go find your file and then drag drop it into your what's it called, Visual Studio Code, and then copy that file into the specific place you want. Or we can be really lazy and just click this SVG code here. So on a Mac at least, it pops up in my in a text window like this, and I'm not quite sure what it does on the PC, but it should be something similar, right? But we want all of this. This is basically all the HTML that will create this text for us here. So I'm going to copy, mark all, so mark everything. And again, this is on a Mac, it's Command A, or PC, it's Control A for making all marked and then copying this one, right? Good. Go back to your Visual Studio Code and let's locate the, I'm just going to use the first one here. And in this case, I'm just going to call this one, I'm going to create just move it in, a class called top left, right? That's the first div. I want to use two div blocks to control where it's being placed in this column here, so I can have a little bit more control. Next one I want to do is SVG holder in here, and then I'm just going to create a little bit of space. So remember, I created this one and this one, and it was where the number one was, so between this one here. So this starts here and ends here, and the same up here. So paste this in, and then we get all this code here. This is nice, but we have a lot of empty like graphic elements down here. So I'm going to remove some of them because they're not actually doing anything. So you can see this is one, this is one, this is one, and so on. So I'm going to start from the just before the SVG, go up, and to just before the closing G here, because we don't want to remove this because that will mess everything up here. So that means I'll have a /G and then a /SVG to in the SVG HTML element in here. Cool. So let's save and let's see what this does to our page. But before we do this, we're actually going to add a little bit of, actually I'll show you. We're going to, so if we do this, we have this nothing here, right? So we're going to add some style to this so we can actually see it. So first thing, we're going to hit the top left that we created, do it correctly, so like this. And in this one, we're going to just set a height for 100 pixels, and we're going to set a width of 100%. So that's the first one here. And then we're going to also attach the SVG holder and in here we want to assign a padding. So the inside padding of this, let's go, let's say 15% at the top, and 0 on, no, let's add 5% on right, 0 on bottom, and 5% on the left. We can see if this fits in the end. I'm going to give it a width of 190%, so it's a little bit not edge to edge. The last thing I want to add is SVG hashtag layer with a capital L _1. And I'm gonna, whoops, I don't know what happened there. And then my curly brackets, and I'm gonna set up margin, and I'm gonna do a 0 top auto side, so it's justifying or it's centering this element. And this one here, real quick, is just to show you that's actually part of the code in here. So you can see there's something called an ID with a layer here. So we're hitting this SVG and then the ID of layer. And that's what we're doing here to just center the elements inside of this one. So hopefully this will give us a text here with our website animations. It's a little bit, it's all right. We could create it a little bit bigger, but that's fine for now. It should definitely still work. So that's how we would implement our our code into it. And again, just to show you what these paths are. So if, for example, I remove this is the first path, starts here, ends here. This should remove my double view, whatever. So we only have this. So each path is each of these animations. And again, later on you could manually hit each one of these to animate them differently, but whatever. So that's the first part of this one, to embed our SVG.